Okay, I've been on a search like most of my life to try to understand objective reality in an attempt to try to define my subjective experience, like what I should be doing and what I should be like, should I do with my life? And I've come to some kind of interesting conclusions. Basically, like trying to understand the objective reality and how things are, you don't really come up with a reason why to do things. You come up with numbers, you come up with patterns, you come up with systems of how objective reality works. And I'm pretty sure I've kind of come to that kind of conclusion in my belief. I'm not saying I can like pull that up. I mean, I could make like a chart or something, but I have not like scientifically vigorously analyzed what I'm saying. But sometimes I think there's some things that science can't measure and analyze, and some things you can kind of just decipher with your just raw intellect and knowings of the world. But yeah, that's what I kind of came to, that reality is just numbers, really, and its opposites, and almost every part of the human can be expressed in that way. But I have come to some conclusions about what to do with myself. And you can kind of think young, but it actually did kind of extend from my research into the universe and just opposites. And basically, Jung says like the ultimate goal of being a human is individuation. And that is where you take yourself and you take your subconscious self and you combine them into one being. And yourself is like your ego and kind of how you interact with the world, like the stuff on the surface. And your unconscious self is like the primal parts of you. Sometimes they're dark, but they're hidden urges and desires. You have to face the darkness. You have to go through the darkness and come out on the other side to understand it. And you have to then try to combine those two forces. Like if you've seen the movie Fight Club, a lot of people like idolize Tyler Durden's character as like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. But no, he is the subconscious. He is everything repressed, and he had a lot of kind of bad tendencies, and he was very animalistic in his ways, which is kind of how the subconscious is. But then you had Jack, who was like your ego guy, who was a product of society, and its role is to kind of tame that subconscious, tame that feral, wild side of you, so it doesn't come out and harm people in certain ways, like natural urges of maybe killing, stealing, blah 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 blah, kind of like the dark stuff. But it was kind of the primal human wanted to be free, but also the person, like your ego, wants to have meaning as well. But at the end of the movie, he goes through his dark side, his subconscious, and he unites them at the end when he actually kills himself, basically. But he kills Tyler Durden and kind of Jack at the same time, but he combines them into a new person, and he basically achieves individuation. And individuation, it's not reacting necessarily like I should base my life off of this external circumstance or this external circumstance and react to that. It is a complete coming together of who you are, regardless of society, regardless of external laws, not like universal laws, but just you're not acting in that base way. You're not a crazy deranged animal, but you understand that part of yourself, but you're not a passive, compliant cog in society either. And you kind of see purpose and you accept yourself. But yeah, basically, trying to achieve meaning through objectivity leads to nihilism. It leads to existentialism, kind of like with, I'm gonna butcher Nietzsche. I call him Niche, whatever. People are gonna be, that's not how you supposed like say his name. I don't care. But that kind of life doesn't matter and it's all about the expansion of the Ubermen and blah blah blah. But basically, that kind of thinking gets you nowhere, because with Jung, he took his mysticism beliefs and kind of his spiritual beliefs, and he actually combined them with just pure raw science. And kind of that's where him and Freud differed at. As Freud was like, humans are stupid, because I think Freud felt very alienated, and a lot of smart people do feel alienated, but not everyone wants to, has that kind of, they don't shun humanity, because Freud himself had a lot of repressed urges, and he felt disdain for the average human because he wasn't accepted and nobody understood him. So he was a victim of his own subconscious wants, and it was repressed and it came out in this certain way. And it's kind of funny because he couldn't diagnose himself with that. But Freud, he actually liked people, and a lot of, just because you're smart, like you may talk about things that other people don't understand, doesn't mean you're better than anybody, and it doesn't mean that other people suck. It just means that sometimes searching for truth can be a lonely road, but loneliness is the price a lot of people pay for the truth, because no one will understand you. But it's not the point. What I'm going to come back to just now is, despite all that searching, despite all that logic, despite all these existential crises, just despite all of it, it comes back to, I'm still this kid, adult man now. I'm an adult. I'm still this kid who wants to save the world in a stupid way, whatever his way is. I have kind of a romantic hero in my own sense, even though I kind of am passive in a lot of things. I just kind of sit by and watch, but I have this deep rooted romantic design of like traveling, creating music, creating anything, because life is kind of beautiful, and it has disgusting things like war and poverty, because people let their subconscious rule and their primal instincts of fear, and they are greedy because they have this fear of they'll be without, and they have this fear of being exclusive, like, oh, my race has to be the better race, and all these fears. All these people who claim to be so smart are really just products of fear. And yeah, individuation. Find out who you are, what society thinks you are, find out who you actually are, the dark side, come to terms with both of them, and individuation will come of that. And I'm not saying I'm like all the way there or anything, because I feel like once you do that, then like nothing can stop you, but I feel like I'm on the right track. And that's gonna be it for this video, so